Alright, so the time has come. I've done my top 10 list of my favorite movies of 2019, now the worst. But just keep in mind, there are no mistakes, just happy accidents. But we know the truth. You and I. I'm wearing a shirt of lies. But a lot of the same rules of my best list apply to my worst list. One, I haven't seen every movie this year. With the worst ones, very consciously so. Quite a few times I was like, nope, gonna skip it. Which means there are a few choices on here where, in the words of the great Tom Riddle, I confess myself disappointed. Also, these aren't reviews. Gonna say a few things and move on. I'll put links below to the movies that I list on here if you want to see a review for them. Also, this video is gonna be biased as fuck, which means welcome all to my unprofessional, subjective, and completely biased video of the top 10 worst movies of 2019. And we start with number 10. But starting off the list is 47 meters down. Subtitle, I totally forgot what. 47 meters down 2. Look, 47 meters down actually had a pretty sweet premise, and it was actually very claustrophobic, considering the fact that there were no walls anywhere. Just the open of the dark, deep under the ocean was claustrophobic enough. It did what Hollywood does, which a few movies on this list did, which is go, well, that was a neat premise that kind of worked. We'll just throw more into there. Make a sequel. Well, less is more. Then you had blind sharks. It was just a mess of a movie. A couple of good shark moments, but I forgot about the movie until I had to comb through my reviews to find the top 10 worst. And I was like, oh yeah, that movie happened. Which is a very big clue that it's not good enough to remember. Number 9. Next up, The Curse of La Llorona. Am I saying that right? I heard I have such a thick American accent. Why you gotta talk shit about my accent? I don't talk shit about your accent. This movie is lifeless, scare tactic, horror movie nonsense, which I guess is part of the Conjuring universe, which means the Conjuring universe, it probably got there a little before this movie, but it's definitely there now, which is the point of us going, yeah, we're sick of you now. If I see no more Conjuring movies for the rest of my life, I'll be totally fine. Kind of funny, because The Conjuring kind of breathed life into the horror movie genre. Then it went on for so long that apparently it drained its own life. Number 8. Next up, it's the final countdown. I cannot say the title without singing that stupid. I can't. Now this movie, I'll give it credit. Really solid premise right there. An app that shows you when you're gonna die. You could do 100 things with that premise. Unfortunately for the minds that made this nonsense, that they didn't see it like that. They were like, let's just do a lot of what horror movies do, and let's be boring about it. Number 7. All right, we all agree, right? We all agree? Terminator should not be a franchise? Right, we know that. Terminator Dark Fate is one of those movies that was made by someone who just, I don't think they saw Terminator 1 and 2. Terminator 1 and 2, I rewatched Terminator 1 and 2 after Terminator Dark Fate, and it did two things. It made me gaze upon those films that I already loved, and I saw them with a renewed sense of pride and enjoyment, you know, appreciation. Also, it made me hate Terminator Dark Fate more. Every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Look, when you're taking on a movie that's a sequel, you have to respect the universe it comes from, and it's just, I don't think they did that. But not just that, it's just, it's a Terminator movie, it's a Terminator sequel like we have seen Terminator sequels be before. It's a rehash of the same old stuff that's not as good as the good old stuff. But yeah, stop with those. It's done. Number 6. Next up, okay, they fucked Terminator into the ground, but The Lion King. It's infallible. You could never do that wrong. Unless, of course, you make a lifeless cash grab version of it, a husk of The Lion King. God, this movie had no soul, it had no life. What was it? It's a live-action Lion King movie that's actually a Lion King animation, which proves you can make a Lion King animation and make it suck ass. This one hurts because The Lion King is just love. That's what I have for The Lion King. The best moments in this movie were the moments that were new, that had new dialogue for this movie. Unfortunately, this movie tries to just redo the same dialogue with different actors that have different inflection, and the dialogue of the old animation wasn't made for these versions of these characters. Just, the movie was a mess. Another movie I ended up hating more as time went on. I mean, I didn't like it initially, but at this point, burn, baby, burn. Number 5. Okay, I'm gonna be real. When I saw that David Harbour was the new Hellboy, I was actually pretty excited. I was like, that works. And I saw a picture, I was like, yeah, that looks dark, it looks gritty, it looks dirty. Then I saw the movie and I felt dark and gritty and dirty myself. This is the textbook case of a remake or a reboot that just didn't need to happen. Nothing in this new Hellboy is done better than the Guillermo del Toro Hellboys. Del Toro ones were fun and cool, but also had great mythology. Like someone was asleep at the wheel making this thing. I don't know if there was studio meddling to go along with this thing, but I got the same sense of fan forestick when I walked out of here going, that movie was so shoddy, It had to have been a studio thing. There had to have been minds clashing, and that end product was the result of that clash. Otherwise, everyone on board was like, that's the best we got. That's just worse. Number 4. X-Men movies. They've had hits, they've had misses. And the X-Men universe, as we know it, I imagine has now come to a close because they'll probably be brought into the MCU. The X-Men franchise surely went out, not with a bang, but a whimper. All right, Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So when you have the writer of X-Men 3: The Last Stand, the movie that kind of butchered the Dark Phoenix saga, and you have that person write Dark Phoenix again, what did you expect? Oh shit, that writer directed this movie too. I totally forgotten. That's the cherry on top. What did they Anyhow, the characters weren't done justice. I mean, granted, Nightcrawler stabbed people in the neck because, you know, he's a killer. I believe they were aliens, if I'm remembering correctly. Still sentient beings. I'm done bitching about this one. X-Men movies have had great, they've had terrible. This is terrible. Number 3. All right, a social message in your movie. That's fine. Hollywood's been doing that for years, decades even. But Black Christmas showed us that you still need a movie. Like this movie. I'm fine. Look, long story short, if you're gonna make a movie that's heavy-handed with its message, you still need to have the movie succeed in the genre it's in. But as a horror movie, this movie sucks. It's boring, it has no thrills, and it almost insults the intelligence of the audience with the lack of nuance with its message. A movie with a message does not a good movie make, and this movie does not succeed as a horror movie. Number 2. Cats is the reason top 10 worst lists exist. Cats is the kind of movie you need a shirt that says, I sat through Cats. Watching Cats should get you free pancakes at IHOP on the anniversary of the release of the movie. Okay, that's a little extreme. But holy shit. You know when Yoda said fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering? That's what this movie is. I feared going into it. I was angry when I was watching it. I hated myself after watching it because I undeniably suffered. I heard it's getting DLC though. I heard they're cleaning up the CGI and they're gonna re-release it. Don't even bother. Oh, they're still re-releasing Cats anyhow. Like I said in my review, Pornhub's gonna get much more interesting. Or at least Google Images. Those are some thirsty kitties. What, you've never looked up Zootopia? You've never searched Judy Hopps? Really? Me neither. Number 1. Cats isn't number 1? Well, that's just crazy. Maybe. But one of the first movies I saw in 2019 was Replicas with Keanu Reeves, and it kind of just set the bar. From then on, I was just waiting for a movie to beat it, and it never happened. Maybe it's because I've suffered with the memory of Replicas longer. It's just one of those movies, you gotta ask Keanu why. I've heard Keanu Reeves is known for helping his friends out if they want him in a movie or something like that. Maybe that's what happened. All I know is this movie is like 3 Outer Limits sci-fi-ish movies wrapped into one, and it just doesn't work. I mean, the premise is great. Maybe that's why I'm just more pissed at the movie, because the premise is good. And I think Keanu Reeves could have done well in a movie like that. Cloning, robots, consciousness, oh my, could have been sweet. But we just got a mess, a wreck of a movie in the CGI robot. Oh wow, oh wow. No. It hurt, it really did. I can't find a movie on my list that's messier, that had more potential to be good, but also was just as bad as it was. The contrast between the potential and the reality, it's just too vast. It's too stark. It's too deep. And Replicas is just the shittiest movie of 2019. For me. My God, we suffered through some dog shit in 2019, didn't we? You and I, actually, you shouldn't have. I take these hits so you don't have to. If you do, what are you doing? Hopefully you're having fun. If it's fun for you, great. So that's it. I've done the best list, I've done the worst list, and that wraps up 2019 for me. Still want to do a video on Mandalorian series as a whole. So there is that. So I suppose I'm not done, but for the most part, I'm done. And once again, thank you very much for another year of sticking around with me. I appreciate that. In a world of much more professional folk who now review movies on YouTube, I gotta assume the reason you stick around with me is, well, because it's me. Like my personality, I guess you like that. And I like that. So thank you very much for another great year on YouTube that I'm very thankful for, and I'm thankful for it because of you. We move on to 2020, where there will be more great movies, more dog shit movies, and yes, more movies that are just middle of the road. But that's my list of the top 10 worst movies of 2019 per my opinion. I imagine you have your opinion, your list. What is your list of the top 10 worst movies of 2019? If you don't watch a lot of movies, you can make it fewer than that. You can make it 5 or 3. But whatever they are, whatever you think, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.